The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Welcome to another episode of Speaking with the Senator. I'm Senator Kevin Avard, and today we're going to be visiting a local business here in Nashua, Rise Barber Shop, and we're going to be speaking with Craig and David, and we're going to be hearing their story, how they got into recovery, how they got this whole thing started. So let's hear their story. So Craig, just tell me a little bit about how you got into recovery, how Rise Barbershop became Rise Barbershop.
So my story, it starts young. I was probably 16 when in my first rehab. But before that, I started maybe like 12, 13 years old. My mother, father divorced when I was like 4. Lived with my mother. It was with my father on every other weekend. My mother working 3, 4 jobs at one point, and me staying with my grandmother most of my life, and her raising me, which was hard, And then once I started getting into like 11, 12 years old was when I was more like, I hate saying the term, but like running the streets and just basically doing what I wanted. And then that's when, the drugs and alcohol came into my life. And like I said, I was 16 when my first rehab. A lot of things happened to get to that point. My mother, she basically, she had to, and I hate saying this too because it makes my mother look bad, but like at that point she couldn't handle me, so she had to sign her rights over to the state. I was in however you want to, foster homes or whatever, and that's where I ended up in my first rehab. And from then my addiction elevated and grew into a monster that I couldn't even fathom having, you know what I mean? So it was tough, but from there, years just went on. As soon as I hit 18, I had cases. I was doing jail time, and in the midst of all of that too, I had kids. So it took a lot on me, and the life just became my life. Alcohol, drugs. Drugs was my main thing.
Do you think the people out there would be surprised at how many 11-year-olds get involved with drugs?
It's and I think about that now because I have kids that are 12, 13, and it amazes me that like I look at my life at 11, 12. I was literally, when I say running the streets and doing what I wanted, and nobody could stop me. That's just what my life was. So I can't imagine my kids doing that right now.
What was your wake-up call?
This time around, because I've had a bunch of wake-up calls. So this time around, almost 2.5 years ago, I was locked up again, sitting in jail, and I had this spiritual awakening that I've always heard people talking about. I never knew what it was. I still, at that point when I had it, I didn't know what it was until further on into my recovery this time. And but yeah, I was sitting in jail. I had the spiritual awakening. I was getting high in jail, and I don't know what it was. I had like 2 weeks until I was out, and something came over me. I don't know what it was. I can't tell you what it was, but yeah, I was like, I'm done. I've had enough. Like I'm done. I'm sitting in jail again at 34, 33, 34 years old again. This is literally, I'm done with it. And I got out the day I got out. So I had stopped getting high in jail, which is unheard of for me. That never. I usually leave jail with a habit. So the day I get out, you know, I had a few things going on with my girlfriend at the time, and you know, I ended up calling my mother and being like, again, and this has been numerous times where I've called my mother like, I'm gonna end my life, like I'm done with this, like I can't live this life no more. I've had enough. And you know, I ended up calling one of my closest friends that I grew up with that lives up here now and owns a treatment center and sober living, and he's helped me out before years back. And I called him again, and he always comes through, and he sent an Uber down that day, had me come up here. And then this is what it, you know, I started the treatment center that he owns. I did that for months.
How did you learn the trade?
Barbering.
Yeah.
So I started cutting hair when I was like, I want to say maybe 15, 16 years old, cutting friends, stuff like that. I loved it. And then as the years just gone on, I kept doing it. And I always wanted to go to school. And it was just, you know, when you're in when you're in addiction and, you know, things just doesn't happen. I don't get it done. I procrastinate things. I've always wanted to go to school, blah, blah, blah. I ended up seeing an ad in the paper for a new barber school in New Hampshire. I was living in New Hampshire at the time, and I seen the ad that the school had just opened up. They were starting classes. I called it. I got in. Boom, I started classes. Mind you, I'm still in the addiction part of my life. I ended up finishing school, passed the test. This was, I think I was 25 when I got my license. And
So did your friend who owns the recovery center, did he help you get your feet off the ground here?
he did. So 2.5 years ago when I came back up to Nashua, because I was up here about 4 or 5 years ago in his sober living in the same treatment center. I tried it a couple times, relapse, come back, relapse, come back.
It's part of the recovery.
Absolutely. That had been my story, relapse. And so I came back up this time, you know, I did the treatment center, and we had a conversation actually the night that I came back. I'm at his house, and we just, you know, back and forth, just talking. You know, I was miserable, I was in the dumps, and he was telling me, you know, because he knew I loved this profession. I loved cutting hair. This is what I wanted to do. And he said the simplest words, and he was like, as long as you stay clean, you could own your own barber shop, all this stuff. And at the time, I'm sitting there, I'm literally that day out of jail, and I'm like, I don't believe it. You know, and then that was my thought all the time, is it wouldn't happen, you know?
You were telling yourself you wouldn't.
Absolutely. And then, you know, that was the first day of the start of my recovery, and, you know, 4, 5 months in, you know, I literally was cutting hair every day, whether it was out of the sober living or the treatment center. And, you know, I was just putting the work in, especially with my recovery too. I was hitting means every day, sometimes 2 a day. And, you know, I really wanted it. And it helped me, because 6 months into my recovery, you know, I had another conversation with him and was like, listen, I was like, I can continue to keep cutting hair out of houses and this and that and this and that, or I can go work for somebody. But like, my dream is I want to own my own barber shop. I want to have other guys that are in recovery working there. Like, it needs to happen. Like, this needs to happen. Whether you help me or not, it's going to happen. Yeah. Like, I just had that mission, and he was like, start looking for a place. So that's what I did. I started looking for places. And
so when you wanted to help other people do this, it's almost like coals. If you add a bunch of coals together, it stays warm. you separate them, the little coals cools off. So
Absolutely.
it's almost like a support system for you to have people that you're helping out
Yep.
in recovery. Is that how you met David?
That's how I met Dave. So I had opened the shop. The shop had been open for a while. I think maybe, I don't know, maybe a few months, something. And a mutual friend, actually, he brought him in. You know, I think he was getting a haircut, and he came in, and, you know, he started talking to me, and he's telling me how he wants to be a barber and this and that, da-da-da. And, you know, I'm like, all right, well, we can start the apprenticeship if you want, you know.
How did you come up with the name Rise?
That was me and my friend that had, I don't want to say names, but so just me and him, we were trying to come up with a name, and, you know, Rise Above Sober Living has always been, it's always had a spot in my heart, and it's always been there for me. So, you know, we came up with it. Rise, let's do Rise Barber Shop. I think it'll be a good connection with it, and, you know, people will know it. The name's already out there. Rise Above, let's do Rise Barber Shop. And
So where are you guys located, and how can people find you and get a great haircut?
the barber shop,
Yeah.
it's 136 West Pearl Street, Nashua.
So it's near the tree streets.
It is. It's in the middle of the tree streets. Whereas we're in the middle of two shelters, actually.
Right.
There's a shelter right next to us. There's another shelter down the street.
Do you
So,
have a lot of people in recovery that come in here for your haircut?
100%. Yes. Yes. A lot.
So moving over to David, how did you guys meet? How did all this work out?
So I've been in and out of Nashua for the past 5 years. You know, I'm gonna skip, you know, my growing up and all that. I did drugs, my dad did drugs, you know, that was my story. But growing up, I've always wanted to be a barber. You know, I used to drive from Manchester, New Hampshire down to Revere just to get a haircut once a week. I love the atmosphere. After I would go to barber shops in Manchester, just hang out with my friends and just watch and just want to learn YouTube videos. Every time I'd go to rehab, I'd be the barber in there. It was always something I wanted to do, but I could never get out of my own way. I've been signed up for school 3 different times. I kept relapsing, losing my license. There was always these roadblocks with me. And honestly, I figured for the rest of my life I was going to be a landscaper. It'd be miserable, you know, working $20 an hour for the rest of my life. You know, going to detox, going to rehab, going to sober living, working too many hours, relapsing. That was my life for 5 years. This is chasing my tail. And I accepted it, you know, and I kept getting 6 months of recovery under my belt, and I'd relapse. And I never understood why. I was doing everything. I was going to all the meetings. I was calling my sponsor, doing all these things. But really what it came down to, I was never making a connection with people who actually truly loved me, you know, and then that's what I found here at the barber shop. This last time I went into treatment to a 6-month program, and I told my sponsor, I said, listen, I'm gonna give these next 6 months everything I have. And if it doesn't work out, I'm gonna go back out and die. Because that's where I'm at in my life. I wanna die. If this is gonna be my life, you know, going to detox, going to rehab, going to sober living, doing landscaping, relapsing, you know, it's like every 2 years, I was doing the rehab shuffle. And this time, you know, I said, I'm going to give these, so for those 6 months, I shut up, I just listened, I took suggestions. And when I got out, I was going back into Rise Above, where I've wanted to be the whole time. It's where I feel safe. It's the only place I've been able to call my home in the past 5 years. And, but again, I also thought, like, you know what, I've been to rehab before where I've told the counselors everything they wanted to hear, and I had it this time, and I ended up landscaping again, being miserable, and I always would end up relapsing. But, you know, this time, like he said, I was just graduating my 6-month program, and one of my friends was like, hey, I'm going down to Rise Barbershop, come with me, maybe talk to him, maybe you can get a job there or something. I'm like, buddy, I'm a rehab barber. Like, I'm not, you know, my doubts started coming in, you know? And I came in, and I was sitting right where you're sitting, and I'm talking to Craig, and you know, small talk, and I was like, listen, I know you probably hear this all the time, but I want to be a barber. And I think he felt like I meant it, and he goes, all right, come in next week, bring your station. I'm like, that easy? That's it? He's like, I'll teach you everything you want to know. He's like, I'm willing to help you until you're not willing to help yourself no more. And when he heard that, when I felt someone finally believe in me and gave me a life worth living where I don't have to landscape no more, I can come in here with my best friends and work all day. And not only that, like we get to help the community and help people where I was a little over 2 years ago, you know?
I saw on Facebook that you were celebrating your 2 year.
Yeah, November 1st. Yep.
November 1st.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's a very proud moment. That's and obviously that's something to build on.
I think the difference between any other time and this time, really what it is I never gave myself enough time to believe in myself or to see miracles or take opportunities and actually have someone believe in me that I can get it done. You know?
You know, one of the things that I think that I discover with a lot of people that go through this is they always come to the conclusion of self-destruction, or I'm gonna die. You know, and they're talking to themselves, and they're convincing themselves of their failures. And there's time in your life where you have to actually talk to yourself and say, I'm not a failure. From my opinion, you're created in the image of God, so you're a very powerful person. So do you find that common amongst a lot of the people that come in here, that they've gone to that mental gymnastics where they're constantly fighting this idea of, well, I'm just going to die. I give up. That gives you an excuse to use.
There has been countless nights where we've had grown men sitting in here after hours crying, saying, I can't do this to my wife no more. I can't do this to my kids anymore. I'm willing to give up. And we sit here and we order pizzas and we hang out with them. And by the end of it, they're going off to detox and they come back, 35 days later with a smile on their face.
Which brings me to another question. So this basically is fanning out. You've helped people. They come here, a place of safety, even to hang out so that they don't use. You might have some good music going on in the background.
Depends on who you ask.
Yeah, it really does. But which is the genesis for the lighthouse, right? What is the lighthouse? What's going on with this? And what is the lighthouse all about? And is that an extension to what's going on here?
So the owner of Rise Above and us, we in Revive Recovery and all the treatment centers, we've seen a very increase in relapses and overdoses. I guess the number is up to close to 30% right now. And Nashua really became, for as long as I've been around, the hub for recovery. You go down Main Street from 6 in the morning till 10 at night, there's meetings all day. And we're right in the heart of that. So our hours are 9 to 6 because we leave at 6 to hit a meeting. We keep our recovery first, But when COVID hit, we've just seen our closest friends die. People that I was supposed to be the best man at their wedding, and it's just, we're tired of seeing it. We're tired we're not going to sit back and wait for a vaccine. We're not going to sit back and wait for the churches to open up. And we understand everyone has these guidelines that they have to go by, but we're not going to sit back and continue to let that happen. We did a cornhole tournament this summer, which was kind of like a last minute thing. We got the whole COVID thing going on. We had a great turnout. I think we raised close to 12 grand? 15 grand for that.
To use for what?
So what we're going to do is we're making a rec center for people in recovery. I don't know if you're familiar with the Hope Center up in Manchester, but it's kind of going to be like that. So it's going to be a safe place for people to go watch a Patriots game on a Sunday. We're going to maybe play cards on Friday. We'll have meetings all day. We'll have, an open mic night. A place because I think with the whole COVID, with everything going on, we really are losing the connection. Yeah. And the opposite, in my eyes, the opposite of addiction is connection. I wouldn't be celebrating 2 years sober if I didn't have these guys, the connection. And a lot of people coming into rehab right now and coming out, they're not coming to Nashua and seeing all these meetings anymore. They could maybe one meeting a week, Zoom, and it's not working.
Isolation is a death trap.
It's not working, what's going on right now.
So where is the lighthouse going to be?
So right now we're kind of in the middle of finding a spot. We had a spot at first, it fell through. We're waiting on the sprinkler system for this other landlord. Right. But right now we're looking right on Main Street.
We haven't locked it in yet, but yeah, there's a spot on Main Street that we're very interested in, and we've been back and forth with the realtor and landlord and stuff like that. Couple little kinks that we have to, Sure. But yeah, so hopefully that's gonna be the spot on Main Street. I don't want to give the location yet. I don't want, but
who's gonna run it?
So that's in the works also. We're gonna have people, that are gonna be key holders basically and there to, watch over and stuff like that. But
Is your friend who ran the recovery system part of this?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, he started Revive Recovery
Yeah.
Okay.
on
Yeah.
Main Street, which is very successful. He's opened up a second location in Derry.
Yeah.
He has, 100 and something beds, Rise Above Sober Living.
Probably over that now.
Yeah.
This won't be a sober living. It's just a place.
This is just
to-
a safe place where you can go hang out, have fun, dances, inside cornhole, games, cards. We're gonna have TVs, all that good stuff. Where you can just go there and be safe, have somewhere to go and have, like he said, the connection with people.
Yeah. So that's the vision.
Yes.
And I find that when you're helping other people, you're actually helping yourself in the process. Yeah. It's that coal syndrome again. You're igniting a fire and you're fanning the flame so that other people can see it and come to it and live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, 100%.
So you guys do beards too?
We do. We do. we do.
I've even shaved a couple back, so.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We do chest and back. Yeah.
That's too much of a All right. So how do people get in touch with you if they want to book an appointment?
So we have a Facebook page, Rise Barber Shop. Yep. We have a telephone number I don't even know the number. It's on the sign though. And we're on 136 West Pearl Street. You can walk in. We also have business cards with personal numbers on it if you ever come in. So yeah, there's numerous ways where you can. We also have a website too. If you Google us, we have a website, Rise Barber Shop.
Okay.
And you also don't need to necessarily need to get a haircut to come.
No.
If you're struggling, you need to talk, you need to go to a meeting with a couple guys, you don't feel comfortable walking in that meeting by yourself, because a lot of times that's the scariest part. Come down, open up, we'll take you.
Yeah, it's our biggest thing. If you're not even getting a haircut, you can come out and hang out.
Do you have any more events going on for the recovery center?
Nothing in the works, but we would like to do something. We're always shooting ideas off each other and stuff like that. But yeah, that would be great.
And you are 501c3?
That's being processed right now with
that's
the
being
state.
processed. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we got all those. We really just kind of waiting to lock a spot in,
Right.
Yeah.
and then we're kind of going to take off from there. But
Yeah, you don't want to grow too fast. I mean, obviously the word's getting out. People are coming. You're helping out people. You're branching out. You've got a support system out there
The support that we get from people is amazing. Amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
we also do this thing called Project Look Good, Feel Good, which we did a block party last summer. We shut down the street. We had cop details, with DJs, good event. But what we do is we work close with all the shelters, rehabs, the prisons, the jails. Anybody who's has a job interview, can't afford a haircut, wants to get a little bit of self-confidence, come down, tell them you saw us, on here, and say the Project Look Good, Feel Good thing, and we'll make sure you guys get a nice cut.
The project.
Look good, feel good.
Look good, feel good. We did that a year ago. We made up 300 T-shirts. Recovery is possible with our logo on it, and we sold every T-shirt that got sold went to a free haircut to somebody in need throughout the community or even out of the community. So.
All right. Any final words from our viewers?
Come check us out.
Yeah.
We'd love to meet you guys, and we're open 9 to 6 Tuesday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday 9 to 4, and we appreciate everything you guys are doing for us, and thank you.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.